Sari Mitnick, and this is Seamwork Radio, where we tell stories about the surprising ways that sewing impacts our lives. Hi, everybody. Welcome to episode number 40 of Seamwork Radio. So this month, our theme on Seamwork is lasting. So if you've read our issue this month, we've got a lot of great articles on that theme. And today we wanted to highlight one of those articles. And this is in the May 2021 issue of Seamwork. So if you go to seamwork.com and click on magazine, you can find it. And the article is called 3 Ways to Replace Disposables in Your Bathroom. And in the article, Ellie Rivkin shows you how you can use some clever DIY swaps for single-use items in your bathroom with stuff that you make yourself. So this is actually part 1 of a 2-part series. So if this topic is something that you're interested in, be sure to check out her article next month. That'll be in June 2021 about reducing single-use products in the kitchen. But today we're going to be talking about the bathroom and some ideas for replacing disposables there. So I have a lot of feelings about like sewing and waste. I feel like I'm somebody who really, I don't know what it is. I really don't like wasting stuff. Mm-hmm. I really, I think you kind of have to control those tendencies because it can lead into kind of like semi-hoarding tendencies.
Yeah, for sure.
But I really don't like to waste stuff. And I've always looked for different ways that I can use the fabric that I have to make something that's useful. So I'm really into this topic because it kind of comes at waste from 2 different points of view. It's like the sewing room waste and then waste within other aspects of your home that you can use sewing to address. So that's really cool. Do you feel like sewing has helped you to reduce waste at all, Haley?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, just the fact that I have the ability to mend things, which is a topic we talked about in last episode, in episode 39. So just diverting that waste, reducing the amount of things I get rid of in general in my wardrobe. But also I feel like it has just made me so mindful of waste in other areas of my life and just like, oh gosh, like how can I, do better with this? I think it just brings an awareness. Sewing brings an awareness about a lot of things, and waste is definitely one of them.
Yeah, I definitely think that's true. What do you do with your scraps? Are you like a kind of person who saves a lot of your scraps, or are you somebody who is good about tossing them out?
I save things. I have like the criteria that it has to be big enough that I can cut like some pockets or something out of it. Kind of depends. If it's a knit, then like I want to be able to cut like a sleeve or some neck bands and hem bands. So I kind of just think about the type of fabric and what I could use it for and if I have enough to do that kind of stuff with it. But I've been meaning to start saving my really little scraps for things like stuffed animals and pillows or things like that, especially now that I have a kid. I feel like situations like that come up more often. I would be more likely to sew a little, like, I don't know, bunny rabbit or something for her. So I've been thinking about a method for saving those smaller scraps that doesn't make me feel like a hoarder, because I agree that there's a fine line and you really have to kind of like choose your battles in some way, especially if you live with limited space.
Yeah, I think that's true. I'm somebody who really, I think, traditionally has saved a lot of scraps because you can find a use for them, especially like what you're saying about pockets. Like I always save my silk scraps because I love a silk pocket lining. It's like a nice little luxurious touch and it doesn't have to match the garment. So I often save my scraps for things like that. But then I think the harder part is just actually using them and finding purposes for them. You always think like, oh, I could do this or that, but there's actually limited sewing time and some of them just kind of end up sitting around. So I'm still looking for that balance, I think.
Yeah, I think it's really helpful to have like, if you are going to save scraps, which I encourage people to do, is having a really good method for storing them. I think a kind of like Marie Kondo way of filing them in small boxes so that they're very visible, and stay more top of mind, keeping them somewhere where you can reach them and not some far distant back corner of a closet. I think those are really good ways to make sure that your scraps actually get used.
Yeah, I like that idea. Going back to an episode earlier this month about preserving your paper patterns, we talked about using clear envelopes and backing boards to store your paper patterns. I think that was episode, 37, I want to say?
I think so, yeah.
You guys can go back and listen to that if you haven't heard it yet. But I think that would be really cool for smaller scraps. You could label like silk scraps in one bag and wool scraps in another bag. If you have particular uses for them, you could even like put a little note in there about how you might use them. I don't know. That'd be kind of
even like sheet protectors in a binder.
Yeah, that would be really cool.
So many ideas.
Some more ideas for you guys. So today we wanted to talk about some projects that you can do that'll actually help you reduce waste in your bathroom. And like I said, we'll also have an article next month about projects that can reduce waste in your kitchen. I'm really excited about both of these things because I think there's more that I could do to reduce waste in my home, and it's something that I would like to be a lot more conscious of. So I'm excited to talk about both of those topics, but the bathroom one today especially.
Yeah, definitely. I usually once a year, I like to choose one thing I'd like to get better at in terms of reducing waste in general. And last year I wanted to get better about composting. And I find that to be a really great way. I haven't really chosen my one for 2021. So maybe I will take some tips from today's episode and Ellie's article and start implementing those in my home.
Yeah. And that's something we're doing at work too. We're working this year on trying to reduce our waste in our sewing room by half. That's our goal for this year. So I think these kinds of projects will be really handy for that.
Yeah, definitely. So I know you guys are on the edge of your seats, so I'm going to jump in and share these hot tips from Ellie. So idea number 1 is to make makeup removers or facial rounds. So if you're the kind of person who uses cotton rounds or cotton balls, these are a reusable version of that will help you reduce so much waste. So to make these, you essentially serge or zigzag stitch a round of cotton jersey to a round of French terry or sweatshirt fleece to make little rounds that you can use, with your toner or remove makeup or whatever your regimen is.
Oh, I have a regimen.
Yeah, I know you do. Me too. I'm really inspired to make these because I do use cotton rounds every single day.
I do too. Yeah, it's a lot. I just used the last one in my bathroom this morning, and I was thinking about how wasteful they are.
Quick, go sew some. I really like this project because you can use scraps. And really, we're talking like pretty small scraps. Of course, you're making them, so you can make them whatever size you want. But I mean, I know that the cotton rounds that I use are probably like 2.5 inches wide. So you can really use up the smallest of your small scraps to create these. The whole process is actually really, really similar to creating lactation pads, which I actually wrote an article about that was in Seamwork magazine probably about a year ago. We'll link it in the show notes. It's just a lot less complicated version of those. But if you are a lactating person, making those nursing pads are a really great way to reduce waste instead of the disposable ones. And these little facial rounds make a really, really awesome gift.
Yeah, you could make like a whole little vanity set, I bet, with these and maybe like a homemade washcloth maybe to go with it. Which is another thing that I would like to try to make.
Yeah.
I think that would be really cool.
Definitely. I mean, I've definitely bought like terry fabric in the past that was so nice. It'd be so easy to just make high quality like facial cloths and things.
I bet you could knit or crochet both of those things as well. I know I've seen knit washcloths, so you could use your scrap yarn to do those also, but I bet it would also work for facial rounds.
That's such a good idea. I love that.
They have that texture, you know.
Okay. Suggestion number 2 is to make your own shower poof. So, you know, those like plastic shower poofs that seem to have this very limited lifespan, and they just turn into, I don't know, basically like a crumpled up plastic bag eventually. Completely lose their form. She actually shares a tutorial in this article to create your own using an old towel, or you could, of course, use some scrap terry. And this is great because you're reducing your use of plastic, which we all know takes forever to break down, literally forever, and replacing it with a natural fiber product is obviously so much better for the environment. I love this too because you can toss it in the washing machine.
Yeah, that's a really cool feature because those things, you know, they sit in your shower, so being able to wash them and get them really clean, I think is so much more sanitary. Yeah,
they get real funky. So I love this particular feature. Again, I think that it makes it such a great little gift. And I think we all have those towels in our linen closets that have like a weird hole right in the middle of them. They work. You don't want to get rid of them. But now you can turn them into your very own shower poof, and voila.
I bet you could also make like, sorry, I just keep coming up with new ideas, but you could also make a mitt. Like I have a scrubby mitt, you know, from like a Moroccan scrubby mitt, which helps to get rid of dead skin. I bet you could make like a little mitt out of either old towels or something that's more abrasive, if you have something that's more abrasive, for things like that too, which would be kind of cool.
Yeah, such a good idea. This podcast is all about tips
Sparking those ideas.
I love it. Okay, and then her last suggestion, which I think is polarizing to some people, I'm gonna rep it today, is period pads and underwear. If you're a menstruating person, these are a real game changer. Not only will you reduce so much waste, you'll also save a ton of money. Because you're buying these disposable products every single month, you're spending money like, you know, pretty much tossing it more or less directly into the trash. Like I said, I think this can be kind of a polarizing one. And I think that when I was introduced to this concept, I was like, what? But I speak from experience when I say that they're really comfortable. It does not feel like a diaper. They're not at all scary. This month, we actually released the Flow period underwear, and I've made a pair, and I plan on making more. They are so fun and addictive to sew, and so comfortable. It's definitely, we're just going to go there in this episode. It definitely feels more streamlined and more comfortable to wear than a pad. So I highly recommend them. We'll link that pattern in the show notes.
I think another thing that when I first learned about these things and was kind of reading reviews, I noticed that there's a big emphasis on using them in place of other products, which is great. Mm-hmm. But if you can't do that for whatever reason, or you don't feel comfortable doing that, or you have a very heavy period, you can use them in addition to other products too. Yeah. And it just provides an extra layer of protection, which is really nice. And will just keep you more comfortable and also just protect your clothing. So that's another thing to think about if you're not comfortable with just like a period underwear.
Yeah, definitely. Just like an added layer of protection. And, you know, I think that something that I've been learning about sustainability is kind of focusing on how to be better. We're not going to be perfect, but if we can just reduce the waste, the world would be a lot better place. So I think that like you said, a great in addition to whatever your protection of choice is. We also have an article about sewing period cloth pads and underwear, and both of those articles kind of go into like the nitty gritty details, like the specialty fabrics that you will need. So definitely check those out too to learn a little bit more. I know that for me, learning always helps to remove a little bit of anxiety I might have around something that is a new concept to me. But yeah, all the ways that we can reduce waste just a little bit, they really do make a big impact.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So the 3 things that we talked about today for reducing waste in a DIY fashion are making your own makeup remover or facial rounds yourself, which is super easy to do. You can just basically serge or zigzag some layers of fabric together, a cotton jersey and a French terry, and make your own. You could also make your own shower poof. So you can use some old towels that are maybe at the end of their life, and that'll help you to reduce plastic in your bathroom. And you can also make your own period pads or underwear. And we have a pattern for that we just released. So we'll put a link to that in the show notes. But that's a really cool, really fun way to use up fabric that you have in addition to getting rid of some of the more disposable items that you might be using every month if you menstruate. So those are all some really cool ideas. And if you want to learn more about all of this, I really advise you to look at Ellie's article. It's in issue 78 of Seamwork, which is this month. So you just go to seamwork.com and you can find all of our articles there. They're free for anybody to read. You don't have to be a member, and you can learn all about this stuff. And we're going to also have another follow-up article next month about reducing waste in the kitchen, which I'm really, really looking forward to. So, and you can also check out our articles on nursing pads and on period panties and underwear. We'll put those in the show notes as well. If you liked this episode, we would love it if you could leave us a review. If you could take just a minute and leave us a review on whatever platform you're listening to the podcast on, if it's Apple Podcasts or Spotify or wherever you happen to be listening, we'd really appreciate it. And right now we're actually doing a little bit of a giveaway. So you could win a year of Seamwork Unlimited. So that means you get access to our whole library of patterns, which is over 200 patterns. And you get a whole year of access to that, as well as to lots of other cool stuff, all of our classes and our amazing, amazing community. And all you have to do is leave us a review and then click the link that we're going to put in the show notes and just let us know that you did that, and we'll enter you to win that year of Seamwork. So regardless, we super appreciate reviews. So if you're listening to this after the giveaway is ended, the giveaway is running through the end of May 2021. We'd still really, really appreciate a review. It helps us to know what you like, and it also helps other people to find the show, which is great for us and great for them, I hope. So thank you guys so much for listening, and we will see you next week. Have a wonderful week.
See ya.
Bye, guys. Seamwork Radio is brought to you by the Seamwork community, and you can find us at seamwork.com. If you have a story to share, send us an email at podcast@seamwork.com. We'd especially love to hear stories from those whose experiences often get left out of the conversation, whether because of race, gender identity, sexual orientation, disability, age, or any other reason. Again, that's podcast@seamwork.com. You can find us on Instagram at Seamwork and Seamwork Video on YouTube. We'd love to invite you to join us at seamwork.com. We have an amazing community there, as well as new sewing patterns and classes each month for members. Podcast listeners can get 50% off our unlimited membership, which gets you unlimited downloads from our library of over 150 wardrobe-building sewing patterns. Just visit seamwork.com/go/podcast50. You can also find that link in the show notes. And if you like this podcast, please consider giving us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or the podcast app of your choice. It really helps other people to find the show so they can hear these stories too. Thanks for joining us, and we'll be back with you soon. I'm Sari Mitnick, and this is Seamwork Radio.